That's practical. That's just practicality. That's like, if I don't have a job and I don't get money, no rent, no food.
No bed. No roof.
No bed. No roof.
No rent, no food, no bed, no roof.
Put it on a t-shirt.
It's a haiku of being poor.
Alrighty.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of New to the City.
Episode number 4.
How long
are we gonna do that?
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Hopefully, eventually, we'll lose track. Let's celebrate like episode 50, episode 69, episode 100.
Dinner for 2.
Ew.
You've never heard that before?
No, because I'm a fucking lady.
Oh.
What are we drinking today, Joey? Actually, what are you drinking?
I'm drinking whiskey and coconut. So kind of like a Mai Tai?
It's like a mix.
Mai Tai Mai Tai's rum, isn't it?
I don't know. But you're drinking like a mix of what I was drinking and what you were drinking last week.
Correct.
What am I drinking? Thanks for asking. I've got a beer from Brewdog, which is my like favorite brewery, I'm pretty sure. It's Clockwork Tangerine, fucking good.
I just can't get into beer. I think it just so isn't my thing. It just is so far from my thing that I can't. I haven't tried a beer yet that I like.
Okay, I feel like you should come with me to try a beer because it's one of my hidden talents. I am very good at looking at a menu and picking out a really good craft beer. And I think it's because I lived in Philly for so long. The craft beer scene is like really, really big there. And it's where I actually really learned to like beer. And
see, like I look at a menu and as long as I see the word alcohol, I'm sold.
Sign me up. I'm ready. I would like to bring up that we launched our podcast 2 days ago and we are officially live.
Totally did.
How do you feel?
Did. The outpouring of support and love.
Overwhelming.
Is way more than I anticipated. The amount of people who like reached out and were like, I'm so proud of you and like you're chasing your dreams and stuff like that. And like,
I think for me, that was such an overwhelming day because I mean, I kind of did it on purpose. I was like kind of keeping it close to the vest. I didn't tell very many people except for like the entire town of Washington that I was moving. Still not very many people, exactly. But I just wasn't prepared for like 2 such major like life things to drop at the same time. And exactly what you said. I mean, like the support and like it far surpassed anything that I had expected. And like even people were messaging me, telling me how proud they were of me, but also being like, I've been in such a rut and like this has inspired me. And that's all I want. You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying that I'm trying to be a role model by any means, but it's just nice to help people know that whatever they're feeling, they're not alone, especially right now.
Yeah. And like, I think that it really shows like how many people I think we've come across in doing ships, especially. Those people even reached out. Mm-hmm. And there's such a big like realization of like ships really brought that for us, you know? Mm-hmm.
It just makes me so excited for people to actually hear the real episodes because the intro episode is the worst thing we've ever done.
I was talking about it with my sister and I was like, not to say that it was bad because it wasn't.
It's not,
like, don't get
the first one was bad. First try was 45 minutes long and it was so bad.
So nervous.
I couldn't even edit it. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that and like give a giant thank you to everybody who listened to the intro. And I hope that you liked the first 3 episodes because we had so much fun doing them. And
we really did. And I can't wait to do a million more.
And
so I'm very excited.
Me too. And it makes me feel even more like we're not going on this journey alone. You know what I mean? Like we're not moving across the country and like going to be by ourselves out there because we have so many people that are rooting for us, which is great.
Totally reaffirming. It's totally reaffirming.
Do you need another drink?
Yes, I will. I probably have a few more sips of this.
Okay. I just saw you like tip that shit back.
Because I was just working for 8 hours. So I got a promotion at work already.
Excuse me? At the unnamed fabric store?
Unnamed fabric store. I am now like, and it's not really, I don't think it's really a promotion. I think it's just kind of like more responsibility. Like it's definitely not a raise or anything. It's just like they're now putting me in charge of like people can place an order online and come in and pick it up. And like also like shipping from the store, like if you order online, that needs to kind of be managed. And so my store manager, who I get along with really well, like we have so much in common. She lived in Las Vegas. She graduated from a high school that I literally lived 10 minutes from. She has a sister who's 17 months older than her, and my sister's 15 months. It's just weird. And it's like we get along so well. But I wish that I could be that person who just shows up, does their job, and leave, and like doesn't really care all that much. I'm just like not that kind of person. I'm just like not that kind of person. But I'm not. Like if I show up, I want to do the best job I possibly fucking can, and it's just so frustrating because I'm like I want to be so emotionally involved and I want to give it my all, and I'm so happy that I'm getting this opportunity whilst also knowing that like I'm leaving the country. So I'm like happy about it, but also knowing in the back of my head that like I don't need to be too happy about it, you know?
No, but I mean, that's exciting. It's good news.
Yeah.
So I have a couple questions for you.
Ask away.
Okay. Number one, how was the procedure?
Oh, so yeah. So that went, it was okay. So it was like short. It was like 15 minutes. I was in and out in 15 minutes.
I thought it was supposed to be 2 hours.
That's what I thought. No, it was 2 hours for the whole process.
Like including commute
to the hospital. Yeah, literally, basically. So basically he was like, if we don't see anything, no issue. If we see something, but it's small enough, we can just get rid of it. Third option was like, if it's big enough, they'll biopsy it.
Oh, okay.
So I went in, and then what ended up happening was there were 2 things that were big enough to biopsy. So that's slightly concerning, but I'm waiting to hear back from those results. The doctor didn't seem concerned really at all. Like he really wasn't. He was like, even if we do biopsy something, we're just getting rid of it. It's just to get rid of, like you shouldn't worry about it. But I'm still waiting to hear back from those results. So it's fine. I'm trying not to mentally freak out. I'm trying to just let it be what it is, kind of putting it in the back of my mind. I have all my sewing projects that I'm focusing on. I have my job. I'm just trying to like kind of put it out of my mind. And
I'm sorry for asking about it.
No, it's fine. Honestly, like it's really not that big of a deal. Like I really don't think it's going to be anything. What will be. And I just kind of have to like go with that. You definitely just saw that I'm not wearing. I know I look so put together. I'm definitely not.
Okay, Jaclyn Hill. I'm relatable.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so.
Okay. I got Botox yesterday with Ashley.
I thought you were just getting like a facial. I didn't realize you were actually getting Botox.
Yeah. It was like, so she and I went in at the same time, which was fun because I usually go there by myself. But we were in and out maybe like 30 minutes. It was literally nothing.
How painful was it?
It was less painful than microneedling.
Oh, okay.
And I feel like there's like kind of a misconception about Botox because I think a lot of people think Botox and they think filler. And like, I am not trying to change any aspect of my face. I love my face. It's my favorite face. I'm trying to stay looking like this forever. Thank you. And so that's why I got Botox because it just freezes the muscle. So I look like this forever. Instead of changing. Like my mom was like, don't get filler in your lips. And I was like, that's not what Botox is.
No, I think a lot of people think it's like Big Ange or like Jackie Stallone, like that kind of like.
I think you can over Botox yourself, probably.
I'm sure you can. You can overdo anything, can't
you?
Right,
yeah. But Krista would never do that to me. she's like the best and she would literally never. And no, it was so easy, and it hasn't fully happened yet. As you can see, it takes like a couple days, which I didn't realize.
Yeah, just like to like develop basically.
Yeah, but I'm going back in 2 weeks to do another microneedling, and then she's gonna kind of evaluate it and touch me up.
Proud of you for like, I think there's something to be said about like self-caring and I don't want to say self-worth, because I don't want like people to think that like you're based off of what you look like, but just to say like I care enough about like myself to do what I want to do. And like, I like you've been like really invested in making sure you're doing your microneedling, getting Botox where you think you need it. Like, I think that's so great.
I think for me, it definitely is self-care. And like, especially, you know, losing my job and being home and not really having very much to like, I was going to say live for, but like, you know what I mean? It's just
like very much to like be actually emotionally invested in.
Yeah. And like, it's just been really nice to have the time to focus on me, because it's something that I've wanted to do. And I haven't, I mean, we talked about this before, but like, I've always been traveling. So I haven't had the opportunity, and I do now. And so I've got a lot of great people who have my best interest at heart when it comes to my skin and how I look, and they want to make me look my best. And so do I. And I'm happy.
And that's it. That's it,
and that's
baby.
It. And that's drag. Botox, drag. Filler, drag.
Don't even get me started. Because I could go for hours. So, Dee, I have a question for you.
All right, hit me.
Did you go on your date?
Oh, sure did.
And?
I didn't get to play air hockey. I couldn't find air hockey because everything's fucking closed. So
oh, shit. Yeah,
couldn't find it. But we went to like have you ever been to a barcade?
Like Dave and Buster's kind of deal?
No, it's okay. So it's very cool. There's a ton in Philly, and it's a bar that has like a bunch of craft beers. And then there's a bunch of really old school from the 80s and 90s video games like Pac-Man, Frogger, all that shit.
Retro.
Yeah. And you get like tokens and you play. It's super fun.
Oh, cute. Okay.
So we did that, which was great. And I've seen him a couple of times now. And yeah, it's going well. And that's as specific as I'd like to be.
I was going to say, you're being really specific. Okay.
Yes. Also, give me a visa update, because last I heard you were supposed to be applying for it December 4th, which is tomorrow.
So I think either tomorrow or the day after, Jacob's going to instruct a lawyer so that we can talk. So it may be a little bit later, just because in my mind, I think because I knew Jacob was getting paid, that's when I was going to apply for it. But then I didn't realize that we have to have all of our information to go to a lawyer.
Got it.
So Jacob knows the lawyer that he's going to call, but as soon as he gets paid, we're going to be able to go to a lawyer. So
okay, cool. So hit me with like plan A. This is the ideal timeline breakdown of the situation.
So, as a long shot, because I think it's going to take longer than I'm hoping for. I apply for my visa like the beginning of next week, so a few days. I do have to get biometrics done, and I think you have to do that before you apply for your visa.
Yes,
because you have to have the information.
Yeah.
So I have to look up when and where to do that, and then send off for the visa, and hopefully it'll take 2 weeks, and book a flight for basically the new year. That's like.
Are you hoping to be there by New Year's Eve, or like right after the new year?
I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't really. I haven't committed myself to thinking
of a day. That. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Like I just like have not like committed to like a day in my mind. Like if it's just after the new year, fine. If it's just before the new year, lovely. I'm just like not, I think, emotionally committing myself to it, because emotionally commitment leads to disappointment. Realistically, I think that the visa will probably take a little bit longer than I think it is. And it'll probably end up being after the new year, which is slightly disheartening, because that's like almost 7 months apart. No, almost 5 months apart from Jacob, which is a lot. it is what it is. Like I said, like whatever will be, will be. Like you just kind of have to go with making sure we have all of our information together. So when we apply, we know it's right. I think that's kind of the biggest thing is like, that's the biggest worry in my mind is making sure we have everything right. Because I only want to do it once. You know?
Yes. There's a lot of like things that you have to pay for that don't get refunded if you have to apply for it again.
Exactly. So I think that's just kind of the most... But like I said, we're going to instruct a lawyer and we'll make sure that everything is right before we actually do it. And I think that's the number one fear for right now that personally I have about my visa, about like instructing a lawyer and it not being right.
Oh, just like, yeah, the whole thing. Yeah.
And I know that's like completely irrational because Jacob and I have read through that a million times and we've made sure that we have everything right. And I know that we do, but like, and I think that's perfectly like founded. I don't, like you said, like, I think in the last episode you said, you know, this is like immigration.
Yeah.
We're literally immigrating. Like, and there's, I think such big
implications,
connotations,
yeah,
connotations of immigration and it's scary and you want to make sure everything is right.
And it's also, I think, it shows how much respect you have for the government that you're trying to become a part of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think that's like, I think right now that's my number one fear. And that's like a very practical, like right now fear. I think kind of more of a broad spectrum fear is just in general. Like for me, I never want to look like an idiot in front of people. And like moving to a new place, not knowing anything, not knowing, like I have like such a social, we talk about my social anxiety. Hi girl, we know she's a part of me. We know she's like in the passenger seat with me driving. I have a genuine fear of like asking people on the tube, like, I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm going. That's like my worst nightmare.
I didn't even think about shit like that. And now I'm kind of regretting us talking about this because now I have new fucking fears that I never even imagined. But like when I was in France or Italy and I would get off the ship by myself, I would get so much anxiety about going to not a restaurant, but one of those like quick stops just to get a coffee, just because I didn't know like what the custom is. And I didn't exactly that. I didn't want to be like an inconvenience or like look like a fucking fool. Yeah. Or like represent my country in a really shitty way without meaning to. Yeah, and that's terrifying.
I think us being American, and I think for me, I know that like I never want to turn around and walk out of a place and people to like be like, oh, that was definitely an American because of the way that they acted. I think that there's such a social implication when you say that you're an American that I never want to like fulfill that stereotype, you know?
100%. Yeah.
And I think that's kind of along the same lines that you were just talking about. Like, I never want to be so unaware of a country's customs that I literally make people either feel uncomfortable or
it looks like you're disrespectful.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think, especially now that people know that I'm moving, I think there's like this big misconception about how brave I am. Like, I feel like maybe this is like not founded and it's just the way that I'm perceiving what's happening. But I feel like people think that I'm very confident about it. And like, I am very self-assured and like, that is just not the case at all. And I think that was a really big reason why the both of us wanted to talk about it today, is because like the bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling fear and doing it anyway. Like, I lay awake at night and I think about how terrified I am. And like you and I talk about how terrified we are all the time. And that doesn't mean that we shouldn't do it anyway. You know what I mean? And I think that that's such an important thing to talk about, because especially on social media, because you only show a highlight reel, right? About all the things that you're excited for. And people don't really talk about lying awake at night and like having your hands
tossing
sweat.
And turning
exactly
for 3 hours because you can't shut your brain off.
Yes.
Absolutely. About
how you're going to order coffee and if they have creamer there.
I walked into a Starbucks and I said, "Can I have an iced coffee?" And Jacob turned toward me and he said, "They're not going to know what you mean." And I'm like, what? You want an iced Americano? And I was like, well, I know it's called an Americano, but you can just kind of say an iced coffee and people know what you're talking about. And it's not the same there. And like, that was like, I felt embarrassed, but like, and like, no one made me feel that way, but I was just like, there's obviously a learning curve with learning a whole country's customs when you weren't born and raised on it.
Right. And I think that people think that we should be better at it because we've traveled for a living for so long. And like, whenever I go to Greece I'm not going to name drop like the fucking countries that I go to, but like I usually, when I get coffee, I tend to order like a fucking cappuccino because I know what it is and everybody makes it the same and it's safe. Because I don't want to be an asshole that's like, excuse me, that's not what I thought that I wanted, but I ordered it because I was scared. And so could I just have something? Okay, no? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and I think the fear of picking up your life and knowing that like you're leaving something behind that you most likely won't come back to. And the only way you'll come back to it is to visit it. I don't think that like that's a small subject. I don't think that's a subject to take very lightly. Like you are literally picking up everything. There's such a huge emotional realization that you go through of like, holy fuck, I'm literally leaving and I'm not really going to come back.
Not in the same like way. Yeah. I agree with you.
And I think ships for me, like, it was like almost like a soft entry into leaving, where I think that kind of gives me a little bit more like it's definitely like calmed down the fear a bit, because I know that like even though I knew that I was coming back home, it was still a push to leave. And it still was like, I'm going to be gone for 8 months and I'm packing up basically my whole life. But I still know that like I'm not permanently doing anything. Kind of gives you that soft place to land. And now being like, okay, now we're going to fucking do it. It definitely alleviates that fear just a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I'm still shitting my pants terrified. And I think for me, because my husband is British and that like I'm moving with him and that like we're going to be living together. And I know that he knows, I mean, he was born and raised in the UK. So to kind of have like a quote unquote guide of how to operate everyday life also alleviates a lot of fear for me. And I think that's something that like, not that you don't have, but it's definitely like something that like I have that like I'm very grateful to have, that like I know that I can always turn to my person and be like, help. And I know that he knows what's happening, you know?
For me, I it's not necessarily the support system or like the having a person there that like, that's not what worries me. It's because I'm so used to being on a ship and like traveling, but in a different way, in a very non-permanent way. Like putting down roots is not something that I'm really that used to. Like I have to get a bank account. I have to get a new phone number. Those are things that are absolutely, completely foreign in every sense of the word to me. Those are not things that I'm comfortable with. And that scares me because I'm not a kid anymore. I should know how to do these things and I don't. And I feel like I'm behind the curve in that area. And that makes me feel vulnerable.
Is it almost an exciting opportunity if you look at it the right way, you know?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think once you're there, I think that's another thing is like everything's still so like, even though you have your visa, which is so concrete, I think there's still a lot of things that aren't, you're not in front of it. It's not sitting right there.
Yes.
It's still just an idea. And that's absolutely still terrifying because you can't get a new phone number until you're there.
Right.
You can't get a bank account until you're there. Like that definitely like still strike the fear of God into anybody.
It's the fear of the unknown, like everything else. Like the fear of the dark isn't the fear of the dark. It's not knowing what's in the dark is what you're afraid of.
Creeping behind you in the dark, which there always is until you turn on a light.
Okay, go off.
It's so rational and irrational at the same exact time.
And there's no solution. Like it just is what it is until you get over it.
Yeah. And it's
and that's where the bravery comes in.
It's the same thing of like walking into an audition. You get there and it's I always walk out of an audition feeling like, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to go.
Right. It's like knowing that you are finite. There's only one of you, and having the confidence to walk in there and put yourself on the table. It's the exact same thing. Having the confidence to move anywhere new and trusting in yourself and your abilities as a human being to make sure that you land on your feet.
And also, like, it's never going to be easy.
No.
Like, it's absolutely never going to be easy. And I don't think it's ever going to get easier, but I think it's always just I think the only thing that gets easier is you being able to be like, I'm going to have to do it anyways, so let's just do it.
Yeah.
That fear is always going to be there. You just kind of have to go, no, not today. So, yeah.
I have so much more to talk about. I'm scared of everything. Money. Speaking of like things are going to be hard. I'm scared of running out of money. I'm actually legitimately like terrified of not getting a job. I know I'm going to get a job. I'm scared of not getting a job. And I'm scared of being poor. And I know it's going to happen because that's what happens when you move somewhere new. Like times are it'd be like that sometimes.
It'd be like that sometimes.
It's going to be like that. And I know it, and I've done it before, and I've lived it, and I'm still scared.
I think that's probably one of the most rational fears is like, that's practical. That's just practicality. That's like, if I don't have a job and I don't get money, no rent, no food.
No bed, no roof.
No bed, no roof.
No rent, no food, no bed, no roof.
Put it on a t-shirt.
It's a haiku of being poor.
But it's like I said, that's absolutely the most practical fear. And that's also like one that like I think you'll very easily get over as soon as you get a job.
Right. Yes.
You will. Like,
I mean, I have to. I don't have a choice.
So, but like I said, that's definitely a fear that like you're gonna have until you move, you know?
Yeah.
Because you can't do anything about it. I mean, you can try to, and like I know you're applying for jobs, and I think especially during COVID times, my fears have gone up even more. Right now, I'm not going to get a job that I absolutely love. I just know that because none of the things that I love to do
are hiring
have any practicality or even open. I mean, the UK just came out of lockdown like 3 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Until
we have a vaccine, then no job that I would prefer to do or that I'd be passionate about is going to be hiring. And I think that's definitely another big fear I have is like going there and feeling like I'm stuck in a job in a brand new city that I want to be in love with and that I want to have the most magical experience, the most life-changing experience. And I'm afraid that I'm going to get stuck in a job that I really don't like. And I'm just going to be getting up, going to work to make sure I have money to live, to not enjoy London and enjoying it with my husband and you know?
Yes. And speaking of that kind of thing, when auditions start happening again, I don't know how to be a dancer in London. I barely know how to be a dancer in New York because that's where I had auditioned 6 years ago when I lived in Philly. So I would go into New York probably like twice a week to audition. I'm more comfortable with that kind of setup. I have absolutely no idea what the fuck I'm doing. And yes, I have friends there, which I'm so thankful and fortunate that I do. And they kind of know what's up more than I do. But still, I don't have the information. And that is scary.
Yeah. And I think that all kind of relates to fitting in, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Like no matter what all of these fears are, it just comes down to like wanting to feel like you belong there.
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like that I'm so separated from what life is like here that I feel like I'm a complete outsider. I don't want to feel like that. I want to integrate myself. I want to feel comfortable. I want to know what I'm doing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Something else that makes me scared. I feel like it's just never ending. I'm so sorry. But I have FOMO about things happening back in the US. Like I think about potential things that could happen that I wouldn't be able to be a part of. And it makes me go, well, like, what if I miss something?
That's so
like, why am I leaving? Also, on the other side of that, like, what if my dad gets sick and I'm in a different country?
Yeah.
Again, I can always come home. Like, that's not an issue, but it's something that I think about.
Yeah, totally. And that's, again, a completely founded fear of like to leave. I don't think I've ever really been like, and not that I'm not ready to leave, but because I know you're completely ready to leave, but like, I don't know. I've never like been the kind of person to be like, well, what happens if something.
Okay. So like I can be completely ready to leave and feel sad that I'm going to miss out on game nights with my friends. Like their lives are still going to keep going and so will mine. But like, especially since I've been home for so long now, I have such a routine and like I have people that I've like gotten really close to and like that's going to change obviously. And I do have the sadness of like knowing that my days in this life are limited and that makes me sad. I don't guess it's not like a fear. It just makes me sad.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think another thing for me is like, I don't want to have that like Christina Aguilera moment in Burlesque when like all the girls are laughing and they leave the club and she's left behind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't want to like feel like I'm now stepping in and have this new friend group, but still not be a part of it. I want to be able to have a group of solid friends. And that only comes with time, but I never want to be like that person who thinks that they're part of a group and who isn't. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's like also a big fear because I don't want to be the person who doesn't catch up on British references or who doesn't understand what people are talking about, or sometimes, to be truly honest, literally not understanding a word that somebody says because their accent is so thick. And like I never want to be the kind of person to be like, again, I never want to feel like an outsider.
Mm-hmm. And I get, and that like knowing how you think about situations and how you feel and stuff, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, that it's something that I think about like, and that's the thing as well. It's like everything that we've said this entire time, it's like your rational thoughts versus your irrational thoughts. Like I can recognize my irrational thoughts. Doesn't mean I don't fucking feel them and doesn't mean I can't like negotiate myself out of feeling them, but I still feel them. Even though I know that they don't make any sense and that like it's going to be fine. It doesn't mean I'm not
intellect
scared.
Versus emotion.
Yeah.
Intellect versus emotion. Like I know that this is irrational. I'm still going to fucking feel this way. And there's nothing I can do to stop that. I can only feel that emotion and know how to get myself out of it.
Mm-hmm. And I think the main thing that helps me is like talking about it. Like when people like are like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Like for you, how do you feel? I'm like, I'm terrified. Thank you for asking. Because it's important for me to acknowledge that and to honor it and to know that even like I can feel those things and still be fine. And it's important to, yeah, exactly.
And still do it. And that brings an immense sense of pride of having fear and being like, great, hello, welcome. Your space is just as valid as everyone else's. I see you. But we're gonna put you in the corner. We're going to put you in the corner. You've been a bit of a
stage left, 17, upstage. We don't want to see you here. Like maybe, you're here. You're part of the cast. That's fear.
Upstage, stage right, jetting off the stage. So you're that girl.
Yeah, that's fear. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked this episode, please make sure to rate us 5 stars. Make sure you subscribe on whatever platform that you happen to be listening to so you don't miss any new episodes coming out. We drop a new episode every Tuesday. Also, make sure you guys follow us on all of our social media. Joey, what's our Twitter?
So our Twitter is New to the City. Make sure you spell city CiTea.
Our Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube page are all New to the City podcast. That's CiTea. And if you have any questions or ideas for future episodes, or maybe you want to tell us about when you feel scared if you're moving somewhere new, I want to know that I'm not alone. So go ahead and send us an email. That's newtothecitypodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys so much for listening, and make sure you tune in next week for a new episode.
We'll see you next week.
Bye.